do you ever wonder why at the time I had a dead arm and I was throwing 84 to 86 against the best college baseball players in the country, and I ended up being an all-star. And he was like, "Do you ever wonder why you throw 84 to 86 and the best players can't hit you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he
I do wonder that.
Hey, everybody, this is Greg Zahn.
This is Anthony Telford
You're listening to The Walk-Off with Scott Belford and Adam Mack.
Hey everybody, this is Joey Murray with the Toronto Blue Jays. You're listening to Scott Belford and Adam Mack on The Walk-Off.
All right. Very lucky and very excited to be joined by Toronto Blue Jays pitching prospect, a member of the AA New Hampshire Fisher Cats, or at least he was back before the apocalypse. Spent the summer with the Blue Jays alternate site in Rochester. Joey Murray, welcome to The Walk-Off, bud. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, fumbled through that. This is your first podcast, I hear, correct?
Yeah, first one. Just look, I've always watched a lot of podcasts like Joe Rogan and Two Bears One Cave and stuff like that. So yeah, I've always wanted to be a part of one.
Well, that's amazing. We're going to take a step down from Joe Rogan, but we're thrilled to have you. Where are you at right now?
I'm actually in my parents' house in Columbus, Ohio. So my fiance works from home right now in our apartment. So she's got meetings all day. So I didn't want to be.
You got the boot
in the other room. So
yeah, you're an Ohio boy, correct?
I am. Yeah, born and raised.
Yeah, right on. We're really pumped to talk to you for a few reasons. Number one, both Adam and I super curious as to how this year played out if you were a minor league player. So let's start with that. I was actually in Dunedin for spring training, the first one, checking out some stuff there, late February, early March. I come home 2 weeks later, Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, they suspend play. So I'm very curious. What was kind of the feeling around camp when that news came down? And I can imagine the uncertainty of those first few weeks a little maddening to kind of go through.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. So like it escalated so quickly. Like obviously it's always been like a serious thing, but like when we were in camp, so I wasn't a part of the major league side yet. So I was there for probably about 2 weeks. And for those 2 weeks, like it was kind of known and stuff like that like this was going on, but nobody really thought like there was a chance that we'd get shut down or anything like that. And like obviously like a thought of wearing a mask was not in anybody's head at that time.
Of course.
And so we were kind of just like living life normally and stuff like that. And then as soon as the NBA canceled,
yeah,
it went from like kind of like lighthearted to, oh, we're done. Like within 24 hours, we're about to be done. And that's when it kind of all set in. And I actually went out for a live BP. I think it was my second outing of spring training or something like that, just throwing against hitters, no fielders or anything like that. And I come back in, and that's when the rumor started like, hey, like I think this is our last day. And once camp kind of ended for the day that day, we kind of got a meeting, and they were like, hey, everything's canceled tomorrow, just hang out, we're going to figure out what's going on. And so we didn't really know what to do, and we were like, you know what, like we have a full day. So like we ended up going golfing just because we still, at this point, we had no idea what this thing even was or like how serious it was or anything like that. So we were on like the 16th hole, and we got the email that said spring training's been canceled, meeting tomorrow morning. Ooh. And we were like, wow, like that's pretty serious. So like I said, like we didn't know what anything was or anything like that. So I was like, okay, well, if I have it, like I brought my car down to spring training, so I'm gonna have to drive home. I don't want to like catch symptoms on my drive back, get stuck in Tennessee, and then all of a sudden in the hospital. This is like at the point of like we didn't know who was more susceptible and all this stuff. And I have asthma, so
you do have asthma.
And so they were like, yeah, like it could affect you worse. And so that day, that it was canceled, the day after, I left at I think 10 o'clock because I had a meeting with them. They're like, hey, like you have asthma, like if you want to stay in Florida, you can. I was like, no, I'm getting out of this complex. And I ended up driving, I think it was like 18 hours straight with no meals or anything. I just stopped for gas, had a couple of snacks, and just got back at like 3:30 in the morning or something like that.
You're like, I'm going home.
I was like, I'm getting home. I'm not like staying overnight, waking up in the morning in Tennessee and just feeling like horrible and not being able to do anything. So yeah, I was just like, I got to get out of here. So it was crazy. And then it just seemed like everything was just escalating so quickly. And my agents visited me. They took me out to dinner and stuff, and it was right when there were two. I think it was an Italian couple that they tested positive in Florida, and it was like that day, and we were still kind of like joking about it, like, oh, like man, like I guess
Of
we all
course,
have.
because you don't know how serious it is yet.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah,
Like, and yeah, and then like 2 days later, we were like, we're gone. So it was crazy just how fast like the thought of it escalated. So
yeah.
it was insane.
The waiting game must have been brutal. Like, how did you spend your April, May, and June? Well, baseball kind of tried to figure out how it was going to operate.
It was tough because like obviously everything in Ohio was shut down. So we didn't have any gyms. So they shipped us some equipment, just really basic stuff. Like they gave me like a kettlebell. I think it was like a 45-pound kettlebell.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it like there's not really like a ton of stuff you can do to like maintain like the strength that like you work so hard for in the off season. Um,
You're
and
saying
luckily,
a 45-pound kettlebell isn't going to keep you in the same sort of shape?
no, no, not quite, no. But I mean, I did everything I could, and like we just pretty much stayed in our apartment the entire time. And for throwing, we would. So my fiance has my girlfriend at the time. Um, she has a softball background, so we would actually go play catch, and we'd go out onto the football field, and it was turf, and um, she would go like 40, 50, 60 yards with me, and so I had my catch partner throughout the whole thing, so that was really nice. And then I would just throw bullpens into a net, and she would just pick up the ball and toss it back to me. So
Yeah.
so I
Well,
mean,
that's better than nothing, man. That's
oh
great that
yeah,
you were,
it was
yeah.
it was better than a lot of the situations that a lot of people had. So I was pretty fortunate in that aspect. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of just sitting around and just
Just waiting, eh?
waiting and doing whatever you can. Like I knew that at some point I had a feeling that minor leagues weren't going to be a thing this year. So I was like, okay, like I know it's slim, but maybe I have a chance to go to like the summer camp, because in the two outings that I was in spring training for, I threw really, really well. And I felt like I made a really good impression. And so in the back of my head, I was like, okay, I need to stay as ready as possible just in case.
Hmm.
And so like, unfortunately I lost like a, pretty much all my strength and stuff like that, but was able to keep my arm and like healthy and good to go. And luckily I got the call. And
That is one thing about 2020. Like, despite all the obstacles that it presented, um, you must have felt really lucky and really excited to be one of the guys that was chosen for that 60-man Jays player pool to
yeah,
head to Rochester. When did you find out that was what was happening, and who made the call, and what was that experience like?
it was crazy actually. So the days leading up to, I knew I had a chance. And with the year prior that I had, I knew I put myself in the best position possible. And like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If not, it's not. But like, I knew like that no matter what happened, I did whatever I could to put myself in the best possible situation. And the days leading up to, I got this feeling like and the way I was talking to like the coaches within the system, like they check up, and the way that they were kind of talking, like they weren't saying anything explicitly, but like it started to get more in depth. It's like, oh, like how much are you throwing? How many pitches are you up to?
You could feel you might be on the bubble, eh?
Yeah, yeah. I that was like the best case scenario. It was like I was like, I think I'm gonna be like odd man out, but I think I'm right there. And so my girlfriend and I, or fiance, we ended up picking up golf again, because like it's one of those, the golf courses open back up. So like we just go to the driving range and stuff. And um, it was the day that the rosters were announced, and kind of like the first spring training, the Blue Jays waited as long as they possibly could have to release the roster. So both times I'm just hanging out, just waiting. And so I was freaking out pretty much all day. And Sydney was like, "Hey, like let's go to the driving range. Like let's just go like hit some balls and just try to get your mind off of it." And so we were hitting balls, and all of a sudden I look at my phone, I see missed call, and from a number I didn't recognize. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I picked it up. They left a message, and it was like, "Hey, this is Bushman, and um, just give me a call back whenever you can." And so like I ran away from like all the other golfers and gave him a call back, and he was like, "Hey, I just want to be the first one to congratulate you that like you made the 60-man player pool, and we're gonna fly you out to Toronto." And so that was one of the most surreal, and it just kind of validated everything that I've put into this game. And like that what I was doing wasn't going unnoticed because I wasn't always the hardest thrower, but like I'd put up good numbers, and it was one of those things that was like really great to see that like everything that I've done, people did notice.
Yeah, it was paying off. So now
Yeah.
I'm very curious about the alternate site. What was a regular day like there? Like what was the vibe? Was it easy to stay positive? Like how was it being in that mix?
So the thing that made it amazing was we had the most amazing group of guys, staff to players, everybody. Like, so obviously it wasn't a situation anybody wanted to be in. Obviously, if you're at the alternate site, you want to be in the big leagues.
Yeah.
So it's tough in that aspect, but the way everybody went about their business, like you had guys, like we had Jordan Groshans who was coming out of A ball, and then we had guys that had 3 to 4 years of service time in the big leagues that were 32 years old,
Yeah.
kids. So you had this huge gap, and the fact that we were all able to gel so well together was just awesome. And I have buddies on other organizations, and I'd keep up with them. And towards the end, I'd text him and be like, "Hey, like, how's everything going at your site?" And he's like, "Man, everybody's at each other's throats. Like,
Really?
nobody wants to be here. Nobody talks to each other." He's like, "How's everything there?" I was like, "Oh, like everybody just is having a great time." So, I mean, at the same, and like we were cooped up in a hotel, and like Rochester wasn't like the best area, so like we weren't really supposed to leave the hotel, like
Right.
not even just for COVID reasons. But um, so like we were kind of all cooped up in the hotel, and that kind of started to take a toll on everybody, I think. But I mean, for the most part, like we definitely made the most of it, and everything was competitive. Everybody wanted to do well, so but it was just a really good environment. So
I love that you touched on that because that was one thing that I was really curious about was the dynamic between guys who had major league experience, were veteran players that were there in case of worst case scenarios and injuries and stuff like that, and then guys like yourself where you're just trying not to lose a year of development, but
yeah,
it everyone meshed together well.
yeah, it was incredible. And the awesome thing is that like obviously I only had 1 year of minor league time. But then you'd have like older guys, like Jake Patricia or like Sean Reed Foley coming, like they'd be with us, and so you really got to learn, like guys like Andy Burns, position player that you got to
Yeah.
learn from, and like learn how like he thinks about the game, and you get a bunch of different perspectives on guys that have been there, and kind of learning about their mindset now, and like kind of the if you just need to watch the way that they go about their business because um, in my minor league season, I was at 3 different spots, and as you work up the system, you kind of have to learn and adjust about how the clubhouses go about different things and like how you should act and stuff like that. Like how guys acted in low A was much different than the team vibe in double A. So at each step, you kind of have to learn how you're like what you're supposed to do. And I think that helped a lot just seeing like guys with 3 years of service time that have been there, like, and you kind of just see how they go about their business, and you get to learn a lot before you even step foot on a major league field.
So without the in-game competition that you would experience in a regular minor league season, I mean, obviously the Jays and every team was doing their best to continue to move their prospects forward, continue to develop players, and so on and so forth, keep everyone in shape and so on.
Mhm.
But you can't replicate in-game scenarios, right? How
No,
do you
no.
feel about your progress in 2020, and what was that kind of like?
I mean, me personally, it's been easily the most developmental part of my career, like ever. I feel like in every single aspect of my game, I've made like amazing strides, and that's testament to the great coaches that I had down there too, and like kind of helping me every step of the way. And although it kind of sucks not playing real games,
Of course.
you're pitching against the same guys over and over again. They're also your friends, and you also see them every single day. So you have the opportunity to work on things. So I was fiddling around with different fastball things and different types of off speed. So I would literally just be able to go. Once I get off the field, I'm going to the same dugout as them. So I can
Yeah.
just straight up ask them, be like, "Hey, like, what'd you think of that? Like, did you see it out of my hand?" All these questions, and so because nobody's keeping score per se. I mean, like everybody's kind
Right.
of in your head. You're like, if you're dealing, you're like, I'm definitely winning right now. But yeah, like you're just able to like get more direct feedback and feedback from coaches. That's great and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what matters is what the hitter sees and how the hitter feels when they're in the box against you. So the fact that I was able to go up to Groshans and be like, hey, like, what'd you think of that slider? And in my head, he fouled it off and it looked like it was a bad swing, but he could tell me and he'll just be honest, be like, no, like I saw that pretty good out of your hand.
I just missed it. I should have had you.
yeah, yeah. So, and it was stuff like that where like you don't get fooled based off of like the results that you see and you get like a much different perspective on how everything else works.
Yeah. Uh, so I might ramble for a second here, but I am going to get to a point. You are a bit of an anomaly in today's game, and you touched on this a little bit, right? So the Jays drafted you in the 8th round. Not a lot of fanfare. You were a bit of an afterthought, and I mean that with the utmost respect, because honestly, man, you continue to climb the pitching prospect ranks. And in a time in baseball when velocity is king because of the strikeouts it produces, you actually led the Jays organization in both majors and minors in 2019 in strikeouts.
Mhm.
So I guess my question for you is, at what point in your career did you realize that you're going to need to be a guy with pitch diversity and some finesse to your pitching, maybe a little bit more on the mental side of the pitching thing than being able to rear back and throw 100 miles an hour? And what are you still doing to improve that? I know you even just touched on it there with, picking everyone's brain and stuff like that, but I'm
Yeah.
curious about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think even today I'm still trying to like learn who I am specifically as a pitcher. I think every year I go into the season thinking, all right, I like this is who I am, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at. Like this is my mindset, this is my prep routine, all that. And then 2 weeks into it, I'm like I once again realized I don't know anything. Like I just know more than I did last year. And so I think it's just constantly learning and evolving of like who I am. But to go back to your point, whenever I kind of first started to realize like who I was as a pitcher and what I needed to be good, I'd say I didn't realize I was good until halfway through my sophomore year. So I ended up being an All-American, and I won the conference pitcher of the year that year. But about halfway through to like 3/4 of the way through the year, I asked for a meeting with my coach and my pitching coach, and like I was so stressed because I didn't think I was having a good year. And like I asked him, I was like, what can I do to like, because like I don't think this is working. And obviously like the year before we had Eric Lauer, who was national pitcher of the year. So that's who I was basing myself
Right.
on.
Yeah.
And so like that's what in my head I was like, that's what pitchers should do. And so in my head, like my sophomore year, I was like, I'm not doing well at all. And they were like, dude, just keep doing whatever you're doing. And once they said that, I was like, okay, like I think I'm better than I actually think I am. But I still don't. I'd never realized why. Like I never knew why nobody could hit my fastball. I didn't know about the spin rates and all that stuff because that never really came out yet. Um, and I knew I always put up good numbers, but I also knew I was from like a mid-major college and I didn't throw hard, and I knew that was going to be an issue for me. So I also knew that in order for me to advance in this game, I needed to put up good numbers, which is totally fine by me. I'd much rather be the guy that produces than the guy that's like, man, he's got nasty stuff, but like he just can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like once you get to the big leagues, you just need to win. If you win, you're good. Like you're gonna be there for a while. And so, and that's
Yeah. Nobody cares how you're doing it. Exactly.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like if you put up zeros on the scoreboard, it doesn't matter if you throw 70 miles an hour, you're going to go out there and like, you're going to have a much shorter leash than the guy that throws 95, but it doesn't matter. Like as long as you keep producing, you're going to be in a good spot. But I never really knew I was an anomaly until I was lucky enough to go to the Cape Cod League after my sophomore year. And I had a scout come up to me and from the Yankees, I don't remember what his name was. But yeah, he came up to me through the fence and we just talked. He introduced himself and he was like, "Hey, like I just want to let you know, like your stuff is different than everybody else's." He said, "Do you ever wonder why?" At the time, I had a dead arm and I was throwing 84 to 86 against the best college baseball players in the country, and I ended up being an all-star. And he was like, "Do you ever wonder why you throw 84 to 86 and the best players can't hit you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And
I do wonder that.
he's like, well, I know, and one of these days I'll be able to explain it to you. He's like, because we know why. I was like, okay, like go ahead and if you want to go ahead and draft me next year, like that's fine. Like at this point, I'm just gonna get picked. And because I was just some 84, 86 mid-major guy, so I'm just like,
Yeah.
just somebody pick me. And so unfortunately, I never spoke to him again, just because I just didn't line up and I didn't
Well,
go.
fortunately for us Jays
Yeah,
fans, you didn't.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. I love where I'm at, and like the player development here has been unbelievable. But yeah, that's when I kind of realized like, okay, like something's really different with me. And yeah, just like ever since then, just kind of like slowly learned like, okay, like they don't hit my fastball, and I don't like it when it's at the top of the zone. They really don't hit my fastball, so I'm just gonna keep throwing it there.
Yeah.
And like I think slowly, like there's never like an aha moment of like, okay, this is who I am. This is what I need to do. It was just kind of slowly over time building that, and a big factor in that was my pitching coach in college, Mike Birkbeck, and he's known for just developing major league arms out of just no kind of I don't want to say no name guys, but like guys like me that I'd one offer out of high school and like turning me into who I am today or helping me
Yeah.
push me along the way. So like that's just a testament to him and like realizing like what guys can become and not
Yeah.
just taking them at like what you see now, but thinking about like what you can turn them into. So he's been a huge factor in my development along the way. But yeah, I think overall it's just the slow progression. And I'm sure even if I'm pitching in the big leagues at 65 years old, I'm still going to be thinking I figured something out. Then 2 weeks into the next year, I'm like, I still don't know anything about this game. So
See, this is the thing, right? There is something to be said for recognizing that you don't know anything. There is something for always having that thirst for knowledge. And you've kind of danced around this a little bit.
yeah,
But let's talk spin rate for a second, because you're a 1%er when it comes to that. So for the listeners right now who don't know what spin rate is, if you can kind of give a rough definition of what it is and then explain, is this something that you're working towards, or is this just how you've always thrown the ball and you're just kind of lucky that you've got this like secret weapon?
yeah, yeah. So spin rate is basically just once you release the ball, how fast, how many revolutions per minute that
Mhm.
ball is. So whenever you release a fastball, it's going to have straight backspin, and just spin rate is just how fast that ball is turning over the axis. So the higher the spin rate, the more it's going to kind of defy gravity and push against it and create lift. So I have a very high spin rate on all my pitches. So
2,500 to 2,700 for those listening. That's what your spin rate is. And you literally would be in the major leagues, you'd be in the top 10 pitching.
yeah.
So elite. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so the higher it is, the more it's going to fight against gravity and the more lift or rise it's going to look like. The opposite is the same with if you're a sinker ball guy, a lot of the times it's guys with really low spin rates. And if it's lower, it's going to fight against gravity less and it's going to drop more than what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Same thing with off speed. If you throw a curveball and it's got top spin, the faster it's spinning over the end, the more downward movement it's going to have. So yeah, what was the second part of that question?
Just if this is something you were trying to do, or if this is just
No.
like you just kind of lucked into a secret weapon. Yeah.
I just lucked into it.
Fuck, you're kidding.
I mean, a lot of the time, so I hear a lot of people say a lot of different things about it. So one of the ways of looking at it is like, yeah, I've been blessed with this amazing ability to spin the ball and not know why. But like, I've also had to like, if I wouldn't have done anything, I still wouldn't have made to the where I'm at today. So like, it's the same thing with like those guys in high school that are throwing 85 when they're freshmen. Like they're throwing hard as a 14-year-old,
Yeah.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a great pitcher. So like it just helps you get away with more mistakes. That's essentially what the spin of my fastball does is allow me to get away with a little bit more mistakes than the average person. Um, but it's one of those things like same thing with like a sinker ball guy. Like if it's a low spin, you can't really like you don't choose that. That's just kind of what your ball does. So yeah, it's not something you can work on. It's been described to me as like your fingerprint. Like you can't really change it. It is what it is. And like it's one of those things like you can adjust it like by adding different pressure to the one side of the baseball, make it move laterally or do whatever you can. But like what you have is what you have. So like for me, my ball actually spins a little off center, and it actually creates a little bit more rise. And if I were to throw a different way, like it'd create less rise. It's the same thing with
Right.
anybody else. Would be like, okay, my fastball's I throw hard, but it's kind of flat because it's an average spin rate. So maybe I'll throw a two seamer or create a different pressure on the four seamer and give it some run.
Mhm.
So everybody's kind of nobody's. I don't think anybody's really gifted to the point where like no matter what you're going to be in the big leagues. Like I think everybody has to work on something. So
Yeah.
it's just about finding out who you are as a baseball player and knowing what makes you good and working really hard on the things that you're good at and making sure you keep working on the things that you're not good at and try to like kind of increase that floor that you have.
Are you an analytics guy? Are you a guy who kind of like, I know spin rate and stuff it all kind of falls into this as well. And as a guy who maybe can't rear back and throw 100 to get yourself out of a tough situation, are you looking for little advantages over hitters all the time?
I'm an analytics guy because that's the only reason I have a job. So if I was not a high spin guy, I'd just be some guy that went to a mid-major college that threw 88 miles an hour and just had an average career and is done. But so I am because I have to look at it because it's why I have a job now. But I try not to look at it too much. I think at the end of the day, we're people. So numbers can say one thing, but it doesn't take into account that it's like, all right, well, this guy can't hit a slider, but in like I can't my slider's not with me today. Like it's flat, it's not coming out of my hand right. I can't just flip him a slider. He's still a professional hitter.
Yeah.
He hits for his job. So he's gonna be able to figure that out. So I think it's kind of I don't think you can go full in on analytics. I think it has to be a little bit of give and take. And it's like given the situation and how you're feeling and you never know. It's like, okay, well, what if this hitter says he can't hit a fastball up in the zone? Well, what happens if it's the second half of the year? He knows he's going to get pitched up in the zone, and he's been working on it. Like all of a sudden, like if he's hitting 200 off fastballs up in the zone, but the 2 weeks prior before that he was hitting zero, and all of a sudden, if you just look at the past 2 weeks, he's had all of his hits up in the zone. Might be a bit of an issue for you if you try to throw a fastball high. So
Right.
I think there's just some give and take, and just remembering that like at the end of the day, we're all people and not just numbers.
Yeah.
Because I
So
mean,
if you're on the mound then, and let's say we'll use your example you gave that the guy can't hit a slider, but your slider's not working with you, are you going to go with what works with you? Like, do you just throw the numbers aside kind of and be like, listen, I'm feeling it on this pitch. That's what I'm going to do.
yeah, I mean, I'd say probably 80% of the time, if I'm not sure what I'm going to do or if what my stuff is contradicts what his scouting report says, I'm going to trust my stuff because at the end of the day, I have a job because of my stuff,
Yeah.
not because the hitters are bad. So, I mean, obviously it changes hitter to hitter, but I think at the end of the day, you need to trust your stuff because if you go out there and you don't throw a pitch with conviction, then it's going to get hit 500 feet. At the end of the day, like you have to believe in what you're throwing. And if you get to that leg kick and you're going down the mound and in the back of your head, you're like, this is going to get hit really far. If I don't make a good pitch, it's going to get hit really far.
Hmm.
So I think just trusting your stuff and believing in why you're there is a big part of it.
I really like that mindset of I'm here for a reason.
Mhm.
Let's not ignore everything that I've done just because there's this one weakness that this guy has. That's a great way of looking at it. When it comes to you as a member of the Blue Jays organization, you were drafted in 2018 and you've constantly moved up the ranks. Who has been your biggest supporter in that organization? And if you had, and I know this is going to be tough to follow up on because you just finished going that you're a sponge and you're always looking to learn new things. But if you could pick one or two things that you've learned since joining the organization that has improved you as a ball player, what would those be?
And so the first part, the most important part, see, that's so tough because I'm like the most unself-made person because like I've just received so much help and like obviously like I'm the one that has to put in the work for it.
Yeah.
But like I've received so much help throughout my whole entire career and like there's so many people that I don't know where I would be if like they didn't kind of give me their 2 cents of like their little bit of knowledge on like what I can do to make me better. And I've been surrounded by such great people in that aspect. Man, I've had that's tough to pick one person. I mean, Jim Sikowski, he was my pitching coach in short season, so in 2018, and then he was also my pitching coach when I was in Dunedin, um, in high A in
Yeah.
2019, and then he was also at the alternate site. And he was actually, once we went to summer camp, he was actually one of the guys that like, and he doesn't know it, but he was one of the guys that really helped me feel comfortable. And because I didn't know I think I knew two people going into summer camp, and when you're in a surrounded by just big leaguers everywhere for the first time, like it's pretty intimidating. So when I saw that he was coming, I was actually really happy that like I was gonna have somebody that I really like knew and I could like trust. And so he's helped me out just a tremendous amount, just in pitching and just like overall just feeling comfortable, and like he's believed in me, like who I am, and he sees the work that I put in every day. So he's made just a huge impact on me. Um, Matt Tracy, he helped me out so much this past season in Rochester, um, and he also kind of helped me with the most important thing is I never really knew how to throw hard, even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And so we changed one mechanical thing, and usually in bullpens I was um, 86 because just no adrenaline, like that's usually pretty normal. And we made one mechanical change, and I just tried to throw like 80%, and it ended up popping up in 91 in a bullpen,
Oh,
and then I ended up
awesome.
running up to 94 in a bullpen. And so like
Matt Tracy is the
he
pitching coach with,
yeah,
or
he's a pitcher. I don't know his specific title.
okay,
Yeah, he's within the development part of it.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know his specific title, but yeah, he's made a tremendous impact on me. And ever since then, ever since that day, my velocities went from 88 to 91 to I've been up to 95. I've had
Wow.
games where I'll sit 92, 94. So like
Yeah.
that, and that's when I really started turning the corner and like seeing how hitters felt whenever my 88 ended up being 94, and it kind of exponentially made it harder on them. So that's kind of whenever I learned the importance of me having velocity, because in my head I was always like, okay, well my fastball is my best pitch, so I need to get all my other pitches better, which it still remains true to this day. But like seeing how they react to even harder fastball with the life that my ball has, it makes my off speed play even higher, and it make just because they have to be even more ready for the fastball if they get one.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so yeah, he's legitimately changed my career within the span of 5 minutes. Um, so yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm forgetting so many people that even like teammates that have helped me so
Yeah.
much throughout my time, and whether they knew it or not, and just like constantly bouncing ideas off everybody. I'm one of those guys that's like I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I probably come off as annoying sometimes if I'm like trying to figure something out, because like if I want to know something about the game, I'm just gonna ask. So
Yeah. Were you
uh,
like that since you were a kid?
I don't think so. I
No?
think the game's just changing so much, and that it's also why I have a job. Like I feel like if I pitched in like the 1990s, I feel like I'd just like be working at a desk right now.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know, but like that's just my best guess. And um, I probably definitely wouldn't have been picked as high in the draft as I was because of that. But yeah, it's more of just intriguing, and it's also like my job. So like I might as well just dive into it, like and give it everything I have. Because one of the things I was saying, I was in Florida about 2 weeks ago for a camp, and we do a lot of discussions, which was awesome, just seeing a bunch of perspectives on everybody else. And one of the things I was saying was like, even if you play for 10 years in the big leagues, that's not a long time. And then you
Yeah.
have the rest of your life to do something. So like you might as well give it everything you have, because like you don't
The
want to look
clock's
back.
ticking. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I was saying, I was like, one of the things I'm terrified of is like looking back on my career and saying, man, I wish I would have tried, like done more. And then maybe it's not even play longer. Maybe I just would have played better during that time. So like and like that's kind of one of the things I'm always scared about is like I don't want to look back and be bitter towards the game and
Yeah.
feel like it was unfair to me. So in my head, it's like if I give everything I have, it's going to be impossible to feel that way. And I'm gonna have the rest of my life to look back on my career and be like, man, that was incredible. It's something not a lot of people have been able to do. And whatever happens, happens. But like, I don't want it to be one of those things where somebody's like, oh, hey, you played professional baseball? Like, what was that like? And in my head, I'm like, it
Could have
sucked.
been better. Yeah.
Yeah. Be like, man, yeah. So that's kind of my mindset. And obviously, like, that's not my like driving force and like working hard or anything like that. But like, it's definitely in the back of my head. It's like, I don't have much time with this game, no matter, even if I play for 20 years in the big leagues. That's not a lot of time. So I might as well just give it everything.
It's a great perspective, man. And it's really a perspective, people should have in any industry they go into. I think that's a really good way to approach your job. This June, was that your first time in Toronto?
Yeah. Yeah. First time on a major league field too.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah. It was, I tell you, so I don't even know the exact sequence of events. I think we got there and we had like a day off or something like that. And I met up with Simeon Woods Richardson. And sorry, my just flipped off the screen. And so I think we were trying to find the testing center. And because we were both lost and we had no idea where we were supposed to go. And they told us, they're like, yeah, if you go outside, like it was like a $500,000 fine. And like, I can't afford, like I was,
of course.
like, I was like, I would just have to take the jail time. Like I can't afford it. Like I'll just go to prison for a bit. Like,
yeah,
I don't really have the other option. And so we were like stressed out. We were like, well, we better not like accidentally go through the wrong door and end up outside.
yeah.
And so we were walking around and we ended up finding the entrance to the field and we were like, okay, we can't not like go. So we go and it was within the rules. We weren't going outside or anything like that. We were allowed to. And I wasn't even prepared to like be at the field, and we were just walking and all of a sudden I turned to the left and like like the stadium's like it just, there's an open door and I see like all the seats and everything like that. And it was crazy. Just like, because I've only been in minor league parks and like I went to Kent State and like I think our seating holds 500 people. So like it was like the most incredible sight. And like I got pretty emotional and like I called my fiance and I called my mom and like called other people and I was like look where I am right now. So it was crazy. Like that part was just like back to like the validation of like
this work you're putting in is going towards something. Yeah.
And it makes you realize it's like we're really good at this game. Like we're pretty good at this, to be able to be here and like, and it just goes back to like, I'm not one of those big like, oh, I got a chip on my shoulder and like all this stuff, but like it helps when it's like you experience things like that where it really shows like what you're doing is working. And like you need to, obviously you're not there yet, so you need to keep going, but like it really helps you like see everything that it could be possible.
You're with a really unique organization too, and I'm sure that Jays players will agree and tell you about this, but like when it comes to Blue Jays fans, they travel better than any major league fans. Like there are going to be I mean, back when the world was open, it was my favorite thing in the world to do. Every summer we'd pick a stadium, my fiance and I, and we'd go check out a Jays series, right? And there'd always be thousands and thousands of Blue Jays fans. In Seattle, I mean, literally becomes a home game, man. So I'm excited for you to put on a Jays jersey and actually experience that, because it's pretty crazy. Like,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. So when I played in Vancouver after I got drafted, that's
you did play with the Canadians for a bit.
Yeah, which was unbelievable. And I wish, and now it's a full season team, which is what I was about to say. I was gonna say I wish it was a full season team, but hopefully I'm not going back to high A. So hopefully,
yeah.
But yeah, I was just like, it was one of those things. It was like back to like when I was saying like in college we had Eric Lauer pitch, and like I never understood how good he was until afterwards when I was trying to replicate it, and I realized how difficult it was. Same thing with Vancouver. It's like I never realized how amazing I had it while I was there until I was like gone. And like Lansing was great, but like it wasn't Vancouver.
Yeah.
And just the people and how everybody just backs the team. And no matter where you go, like it's so weird. No matter where you go, like they won't recognize you for you, but you'll be walking and they'll be like, that's a Canadians player. Like for some reason, I don't know why, but like it happens to everybody, and like they just know for some reason.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier if like you're like guy from like Latin America, but like even like guys like me, like I look like the most average person, and somehow like they're like, oh yeah, he plays professional baseball, and but yeah, it was one of those things like I just wish I kind of uh took a second, taken a breath, and like looked around and like realized like how amazing all this is, and like I had an amazing host family that I still keep in touch with to this day, and um just and they even brought up the fact that like in Seattle, like it's a home game for the Blue Jays, and yeah, I wish it was the AAA stadium. So
So do I. And a lot of Canadians do. It kind of sucks Canada. It's so much travel, right? Like there was a AAA kind of route that used to exist here in the 90s
Mhm.
and that kind of died just because it was
Yeah,
so
I can't
much,
imagine.
12-hour bus rides suck, right? So
Yeah, and I can't imagine if you're in AAA in Vancouver and you get optioned and or you get recalled and then you're in Toronto the next day and then you get sent back down the next day and
oh,
you're back in. Whew. So that's why I'm kind of glad it's Buffalo because at least it's close.
yeah, you don't have a 3-hour time zone difference to worry about there for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be tough. But yeah, I'm glad Vancouver's kind of staying within the Blue Jays organization. So at least you can kind of hear stories about like how everybody else got to go there, and because it's something that I'm really glad I got to experience.
That's very cool. Was Vancouver your first pro team? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, first, yeah, and like I said, like I was coming from Kent State, so like we didn't really have fans. Like our parents were our fans.
Right.
So and then also my first outing in professional baseball was in Vancouver, and there was like I don't know how many, probably like 6,500 people there, but the stands are so tall that like it looks like there's a million people right on top of you. So it's one of those things that like going into it, I was like, okay, this is only going to happen once. It doesn't matter if you get shelled right now. Like what you need to do is once you get out there, step back, just look around, like just take everything in because this is only going to happen once.
Hmm.
So that's what I did, and just like, and at the time it was tough not to get emotional about it because it was like, once again, like I'm this kid that's like I throw 88. I'm not supposed to be here. So like it was one of those things like it was like man like this is really cool, and like I felt like I was like I deserve this, and like I'm gonna really enjoy this, and luckily I had a great short season.
Is that something you've become more cognizant of as you kind of move up the ranks? Is to just once you accomplish something to like sit back and take a breath and kind of realize what you've done?
Only for the big things. Like
Yeah.
it's tough to be like because every time you get moved up, it's like, well, I want to be here,
Yeah.
not where I'm at right now. Like
Mhm.
whenever I got called up to New Hampshire, it's like, well, man, Buffalo seems pretty cool. So like
Yeah.
it's tough not to like continue looking, and I think it's important to like remember where your feet are, and because I think the game can kind of speed up once you have all these other distractions going on. But the big things I make sure I realize because like all this there's only one time you're going to have your first professional outing. There's only one time you're going to step into Rogers Center for the first time. So like I want to always be able to remember that because I want to look back on my career and remember like how each thing made me feel, and just so I don't have to look back and be like, man, like pretty sure that was pretty cool. Like I wish I like took more time to like kind of look at everything and enjoy it.
Yeah. So I'm curious then when it comes to 2021, and I mean, it looks like there's fingers crossed there's going
Mm.
to be a minor league season and everything like that. Do you have benchmarks as to where you want to be? Like, are you like, I want to get to Buffalo, I want to be a September call up, or are you more focused on just improving as a pitcher and wherever you land, you land?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, it it's really tough. One of the things that's important is not having goals solely determined on somebody else making the decision. So
Right.
I could say my sole goal is to make it to Toronto by June. But I could pitch to a 0 ERA, and if things don't go my way, like I'm sticking in Buffalo.
Hmm.
So that's always in the back of your head because obviously we're all playing to get to the major leagues, so it's impossible not to think about it. But I think it's also important to like have goals for yourself that it's like, okay, by the end of the year, I want 185 strikeouts because I had 170 the year prior.
Right.
So that's kind of my focus is just like trying to be the best pitcher I can be and accomplish my personal goals that is solely determined by me. Like for instance, my after the day short season ended, I had 3 goals. It was make every single start in my first full season, which is my biggest goal because you can't get called up if you're hurt.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make every single start, which I made, which I was extremely happy about. My second one was to get, I think it was 181 strikeouts because the year prior, I think I had like 180, I think, or something like that. I think I
Yeah.
wanted to be, I don't remember the specific number, and I didn't accomplish that. I think I finished with 169. And then my third goal was something that I didn't have control over fully, and that was so it was the day short season, and I said by the end of my first full season, I want to end in Double A, which I accomplished.
Yes.
So I think it's important to have a lot of goals that you're in control of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like we're all playing to get
I
closer
mean,
to like
obviously you want
first
to get to the
round.
show. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, like I only really care about being the best pitcher I can
Pitcher
be.
I can be, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like no, I kind of want to be in the major leagues right now, but but I don't have control over that. But so yeah, it's impossible for you not to think about it, and people that say they don't, I think aren't telling the truth.
Yeah.
But I think it's important not to have that be your sole factor in determining if you're successful or not.
Yeah. Well, the Blue Jays are one of the youngest teams in all of Major League Baseball. They have a core in place that's probably going to be there half a decade. They made the playoffs for the first time since 2016 last year. And there's nothing but huge talk about them bringing in some real star power this year.
Mhm.
Is there a buzz in the minor league system about this? Like, are the guys in the organization like yourself? I mean, not that you need more motivation to get to the show, but like, is this something that is being talked about a little?
Um, I think a little bit. I mean, I was in Florida for about 3 weeks, starting in I think early September. No, sorry, November. I think I don't know. It was like 3 weeks at some point
It's
before I
fine.
got back
Right.
from
Yeah.
Rochester. But it's one of those things. Everybody knows within the organization knows how good the Blue Jays are about to be. Like you can look at it on paper, you can watch the games, and you can see like I don't know if it's gonna be this year, but or next year, but at some point, like with the players that they have, like the Blue Jays are gonna be ridiculous. And I came back and I started working out again, and a guy came back from the major league season. He was like, dude, like I've been saying it for 2 years now. Like this is like you guys are about to be ridiculous. And
Yeah.
so it's like everybody's starting to take notice. I think it's just because everybody's so young. Um, and I think that's kind of tougher fans and other players to like know like okay like I just need to relax for a minute because like they're gonna get there, but like
Hmm.
everything takes time, especially in baseball.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I think everybody knows at this point. It's like man, like they're gonna be really good, especially in the minor league system. It's like they're gonna be really good, and and everybody's like I want to be a part of it. So and I want to contribute and like
Yeah.
be on that team because that team's gonna be legit.
Well, as a Jays fan, I mean, I just love that spiel you just gave. So, very exciting team right now. I know, like, I've been a diehard my whole life, right? So, watching last year happen, and I know the playoffs got expanded and all that stuff, but just like it was such an you just didn't see it coming, like I had in my head another year or two with this rebuild and like, was just watching it because I love ball so much. And then to watch them actually take that step forward, very cool. So um, we're going to talk a little baseball that isn't just specifically about the Jays for a second here before we let you go.
Okay.
Obviously, when it comes to baseball, there's no sport that has had a clash between the old school and the new school kind of way of doing things, quite like baseball has over the last 5-10 years. And I mean, this goes over a broad series of topics, but the ones I'm thinking of is the unwritten rules. So we'll talk that for a second.
All right.
Like, let's go with Fernando Tatis Jr. as just an example here, right? 3-0, they're down by 7 in the 8th. He swings, and I didn't even know this was an unwritten rule that you're not supposed to swing 3-0. Like, I've been a fan my whole life, and I'm learning new unwritten rules every day.
I play it for a living, and I learned that the next day. I had no idea that was a rule. I'm a pitcher.
Well, and especially at a time in baseball when like it's all strikeouts and home runs and like teams come back from 7-0. Like
Yeah.
teams score 7 runs in 2 innings. How did you feel about that particular scenario and just unwritten rules in general, and how sometimes baseball feels like they kind of shun young, enthusiastic players?
Yeah. It's just, I mean, granted, like I'm a younger guy, so like that's the way I want the game to go is like, can we just like have like let's at least like because like we're all having fun for the most part, like unless you're getting shelled, like that's not very fun. But like
Yeah.
if we're having fun, can we at least act like we're having fun? Like because like if kids are watching this game, you hit a grand slam and you're just supposed to sit the bat down and just and do a quick jog around the bases, touch home, and
Yeah.
act like nothing just happened. Like they're gonna be like, I think I'm gonna go play football or basketball where like if I do something sweet, I can celebrate. Like you see guys in the NFL doing like they're bowling with teammates, they're throwing the ball and they're knocking pins over.
Yeah.
Like they're clearly allowed to have fun. So I don't know. I think in Rochester the next day, whenever we saw it all blowing up, there was a 100% like agreement that getting mad at a dude trying to swing 3-0 in a major league baseball game. Like we're not playing little league.
Yeah.
That it's ridiculous that you can expect some dude that's trying to win MVP to give up at bats in a 64 game season.
I
Because at
love
the end of the
hearing
day,
that
like
because I was actually going to ask you that. Like, as a pitcher, is it on you a little if you're going to telegraph a fastball right down the middle when it's 3-0 to a guy who's in the talk for MVP,
yeah,
right? Like,
it's like if you don't want him to swing 3-0, maybe throw a strike, maybe give that a shot. But I don't. It didn't make any sense to me. It's like we're all just I don't know. Like don't go down 7 runs. It's like yeah, it sucks. And I've been there where like I've gotten shelled and then like you feel like the world just crumbling in on you. You have tons of people watching you, and you're like, man, like I got to get out of this. And all of a sudden you give up another home run, and you feel like you were close to getting out of it. It's like I don't know, man. And at least from my perspective, I walk a decent amount of guys. If the bases are loaded and we're down 7 runs and it's 3-0, I'm praying that guy swings because at least I'm not walking in a run.
yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure it was like a painted, or I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Is that you should continue to play the game because at the end of the day, obviously, money isn't like end all be all. But looking back, if for when he hits arbitration or anything like that, if they see that he wins an MVP, that he's going to make a substantial amount more than if he came in third place. It's like, well, what if he lost the MVP? Because this has happened. What if he loses the MVP because he had 3 less RBIs than the other guy
Yeah.
and like 1 or 2 jacks? Well, that grand slam would have gotten a lot closer. So I don't know. I think because there's money on the line, you can play as hard as you want to play because it's your job, it's your livelihood, and it's affecting how much money you're going to make in your career. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like it, then don't give up the home run and watch. I'll end up giving up a bomb on 3-0 at a grand slam. But I mean, we're all playing a game. Like,
Well, that's the thing. And I mean, we talked about this on the podcast the day after it happened, right? And it was just very surprising to see. What surprised me was the managers on both teams coming out and talking like it was a problem. And it was just like so surprising to see at a time in baseball when 7 runs, I know it's a lot. And I know there's a rule, don't rub the other team's face in it. But it's just like teams come back from that all the time. There's probably a dozen times in a year where you see that happen.
yeah, and especially a dozen times in a year, multiply that by 3 because the season's so short, and each win counts as 3 wins.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, at what point is he? So you're telling Tatis that he's not allowed to play the game because he's his team, or because he's too good, essentially.
Yeah.
Because if there's some horrible hitter up there, if the pitcher was up there and it was 3-0, aren't you kind of hoping he swings the bat? Like you don't want to. So what you're saying is that he's too good to play against you. So it's like, what are you telling yourself at that point? Are you saying like you don't trust your stuff to get him out? Like even if he's betting 350, he's still getting out like 6.5 times out of 10. So I don't know. I just think that we need to keep just playing the game, and I don't know. It sucks. Sometimes this game hurts,
Yeah.
but like,
It's not personal,
and
like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just like, what are you telling him? Like, is he going to be allowed to swing 3-0 or 3-1? Sorry.
yeah.
Like, if it was 2-0, was he allowed to swing, or does
Yeah.
he? And if he gets one more ball, if that pitcher doesn't throw it over the plate and he can't swing at it, then is he? I don't know. I don't know. I didn't.
No, I'm with you, and I really do appreciate you giving your opinion on this because I know that it is divided amongst the league. So I do appreciate that. I'm curious, on the other hand, how you feel, and because these tend to be the big thing talking points in baseball right now. So on the other hand, how do you feel about the way baseball has gone when it comes to starting pitchers? How it's rare any pitcher faces a lineup for a third time. It's rare that a starting pitcher goes deep in a game. And even when they do, we saw it in the playoffs, right? Blake Snell, Cy Young Award winner in 2018, and he was predetermined when he was coming out of the game as a starting pitcher. How do you feel about that?
It's tough because like it's kind of something like it affects me directly. I really do see both sides of it because if because velocity is so important. Like anybody that doesn't say that has never faced somebody throwing 95 because once they step in the box, they're gonna be like, "This sucks." I'd rather throw 89. Um, so I think now, like I can't like say this for certainty, but I know the batting average the third time through the order goes up like a ton.
Yeah.
Um, so if it's a close ball game, I definitely see why that happens, and I I didn't see the data per se, but I was told that Blake Snell's velocity went down 2 miles an hour between innings that inning compared to
Mhm.
the inning prior, and he's also facing the first three hitters in the lineup, and he was facing
Mhm.
Mookie Betts, who doesn't strike out. He's struck out twice against Blake Snell already, so he's seen a lot of his stuff, and he's also trying not to strike out this time.
Mhm.
And his velocity is now 92 instead of 95. So I really do see both sides of it, and I know that Kevin Cash was doing that the entire year, and they made it to the World Series with guys that you've never really heard
Yeah.
of. So and the whole like the best part of their team was their pitching staff. So like clearly he was managing them well, but I do see both sides of it. I don't know if that kind of management, like pitching management, is gonna go over to a 162 game season because I don't know if the bullpen will be able to handle that. So I guess we'll see, but I really do see both sides of it. I think when you got a guy like Ryu that like clearly Cy Young candidate every single
Yeah.
year, if he's mowing, then you just let him keep going like he's your guy, and
Mhm.
you paid him a lot of money to do that. So I think it really depends on like who you are and like your track record, but I see both sides of it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm still pretty split on it just because
Well, I mean, it
I
does.
like the game.
You brought it up. It affects you directly, right? Like as
Yeah,
a starting pitcher, this is your livelihood we're talking
yeah,
about. So
yeah. And pitching, believe it or not, is pretty tiring. So once you're, it's like 2.5 hours of exercise if you're
yeah,
going to the seventh inning.
yeah,
So by the time you get to the seventh inning, it's like I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not feeling as good as I was in the first inning. So if the game's on the line, like it's probably, and no pitcher is ever gonna say like, "Hey, coach, I think I should probably come out of this game. I'm getting a little fatigued over here." Like every pitcher's gonna want to go out there and be like, "No, I'm good. Give me the eighth."
yeah,
So I don't know. I think it puts everybody in a tough situation just because people are so competitive.
yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see where the game goes. I think this next year is going to be a big. It's going to determine a lot on what we see going forward with how pitching staffs are handled.
Yeah, agreed. Because it was so different watching a 60-game season and how
Yeah,
often the bullpen got used. I mean, there
yeah,
were a lot of teams, the Jays included, that their starting pitchers didn't even account for half of the innings, right? So,
yeah.
which pretty crazy. But honestly, Joy, I don't want to keep you any longer here. Really, really appreciate you spending an hour with us here, man. That was awesome. Love talking
Yeah.
baseball with you. Merry Christmas to you and your fiance and all that good stuff. Look forward to seeing you in a Blue Jays uniform. If I can get you to do me one favor before you get out of here,
Yep.
would you be able to say you're listening to Scott Belford and Adam Mack on the walk-off and you can, this is Joey Murray with the Toronto Blue Jays organization.
Yeah, hey everybody, this is Joey Murray with the Blue Jays. You're listening to Scott Belford and Adam Mack with sorry, what was the last part?
On the walk-off.
On the walk-off. Sorry, yeah, I knew that.
No, all good. We can cut it up. Give her one more try here.
I need to write this thing down. Hey everybody, this is Joey Murray with the Toronto Blue Jays. You're listening to Scott Belford and Adam Mack on the walk-off.
Nailed it, buddy. Thank you.
Perfect. That was awesome.
And that was tough. Turns out I don't have a very good memory. Holy crap.
Right on, dude. Really enjoyed this, man. Thanks again for taking the time. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Yeah,
We'd love to have you back again.
Yeah, definitely. That was fun. First one, and yeah, I'm down to go again whenever you guys want. So yeah, thanks, Travis.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. Again, Happy New Year and all that good stuff, and all the best in 2021. And we'll hopefully talk to you down the road.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Take care.
Right on, buddy. Cheers.
You guys, thanks.